must remember that we have to take momentous decisions and with grave vision facing our life.
पूर्व पाकिस्तान के लोग ये समझते हैं कि इस निजाम में वो बराबर के साथी नहीं।
Attack on East Pakistan is an attack on Pakistan as a whole. In other words, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman has committed acts of treason.
But do you support the Bangladesh guerrillas? Do you support a separate state in these parts?
You see, it's not a question of supporting or not. The question is what is likely to happen.
I will not be a party to the ignominious surrender of part of my country. You can take your security council. There you are. I'm going.
That I want my right. I want my emancipation. I want to live like a free citizen of a free country.
You mean independent?
That I don't mean. It can be done in many ways.
On August 14th, 1947, a new nation was born. And several weeks later, the infant country, Pakistan, took its place among the free governments of the world in the family of United Nations. Carved out of the subcontinent of India, Pakistan ranks 5th in population among the countries of the world. Its land area is split into two non-contiguous geographical units in the eastern and western sections of what had been Britain's Indian Empire. For thousands of years,
the division of British India, it was an impossible situation. Politically, I know that now there were not many options for making a viable state separated by 1,000 miles of India. Culturally different, linguistically different.
Pakistan obviously faced many difficulties, and these were compounded, I think, by a lot of unexpected developments in terms of this huge refugee population which flooded into Pakistan, and this new state had to more or less from scratch establish its administrative structures and somehow or other house, feed, and try and rehabilitate this totally unanticipated sort of influx of refugees.
We were dealing with a very unusual state. There was no instance in world history. How do you build a nation state which is separated by 1,000 miles of a country that does not want the two wings to exist? From the word go, the Interior Minister of India, Sardar Patel, had said Pakistan won't last more than 6 months. So when you have a neighbor with that kind of attitude, and you have no precedent to go by, you have to make mistakes, I suppose, in the process of building a new nation state in formidable conditions.
The unusual vulnerable structure of the Pakistani state was shaped by a shared sense of historic injustice suffered by the Muslims under British rule. In 1757, the East India Company defeated the Nawab of Bengal in the Battle of Plassey, commencing 200 years of trade and military expansion in the region.
Due to the Battle of Plassey, East Bengal fell to the British. And what did the British do? They were extremely unkind and brutal and committed a large number of atrocities to the people of East Bengal. The amount of agriculture tax was increased from 10% to 70% overnight.
The British were ruthless in their exploitation of the local population and resources. Their disregard for sacred beliefs and practices of the region and their treatment of the soldiers employed in their army led to widespread discontent and unrest. The First War of Independence in 1857, which grew out of a rebellion in the army, spread to all corners of the empire, but was ruthlessly quashed.
The War of Independence of 1857 was primarily led by Bengali soldiers. As a result, the British took two decisions. Number one, they will never allow Bengalis to be hired as soldiers in the British armies. And number two, no Bengali will be allowed to work for the British government as a civil servant. So as a consequence, the people of East Bengal were the most downtrodden and the most oppressed in all of India.
The rise of Muslim nationalism in East Bengal was one of the major reasons for the division of Bengal into two states by the British in 1905. Even though the division was reversed in 1911, this movement gained strength over the coming decades. Founded in Dhaka, East Bengal in 1906, the Muslim League rapidly expanded across the subcontinent and soon became the leading political party advocating for a separate Muslim homeland.
Bengal suffered from a sense of economic deprivation during the British time. They were left behind. So in the creation of Pakistan, perhaps Bengalis saw their ultimate emancipation.
In 1937, the Muslim League participated in the first prominent provincial elections held under British rule. They failed to win a majority vote. But it was the dynamic and charismatic leadership of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah that brought Muslims together in the region. It was upon his invitation that the Muslim Bengali leader, A.K. Fazlul Haq, proposed the Lahore Resolution on March 23, 1940. The resolution called for the establishment of a separate homeland for the Muslims of the subcontinent.
At key moments, Bengal played a crucial role in rescuing Mr. Jinnah, especially after the 1937 elections when the Muslim League lost. It was because of Bengal that he was able to claim a place at the All India level. So Bengal played a crucial role throughout.
In the 1946 provincial elections, the Muslims swelled for Muslim seats across the subcontinent, including East Bengal, solidifying its status as the main political party representative of the rights of the Muslims of the subcontinent.
Obviously, the other provinces were critical. Their support for the Pakistan movement, for the Muslim League and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was vital.
While freedom from colonial rule brought independence, the new statehood also brought a host of challenges.
When you are in the early stages of your birth, you go through this kind of pang and pain, learning.
One of the first challenges that the new nation-state faced was choosing a single-state language.
Now please understand that what were Bengalis expecting from Pakistan, that all the oppression which they had felt will become better. Now what happens? It is in March 1948 that Mr. Jinnah announces in Dhaka that Urdu would be the national language of Pakistan.
Let me make it very clear to you. Leave no doubt that the state language of Pakistan is going to be Urdu and no other language.
The first big disappointment that came to the East Bengalis, that look, our language is also not being recognized as the language of Pakistan.
And the people of East Pakistan had a very strong case for it. They were in a majority. And regardless of the fact that it was not spoken in West Pakistan, they had a right to ensure that their language was also a state language.
For official use in this province, people of province can choose any language they wish. This question will be decided solely in accordance with the wishes of the people of this province. Hello, look at the history. Every government has got to have some state language. Therefore, so far as the state language is concerned, Pakistan's state language shall be Urdu.
The reality was that even though Bengali was a very good, old, beautiful language, it was not spoken outside East Pakistan and West Bengal. Whereas in contrast, Urdu was spoken across the whole northern belt of what was then India, as well as of West Pakistan.
The decision to use Urdu as the single state language provoked widespread protests in East Pakistan within the first few years of the new country's birth.
In that speech on the 24th of March, 1948, and already the Quaid was pointing out, beware, because India has already begun to sow misunderstanding and discontent on the language issue. Because look at the suspiciousness of this whole exercise, here is a country which was opposing the creation of Pakistan, and now suddenly they've become the champions of the Bengali language and the people of East Pakistan. They want to arouse sentiments against West Pakistan.
It was only with the adoption of the 1956 Constitution, 9 years after independence, that Bengali was given full constitutional legitimacy as a state language. By then, mistrust had already been sown. Other than the language issue at the time of independence, there were stark disparities between East and West Pakistan. In the 1940s, Bengal had been hit by one of the worst famines in recorded history, crippling it economically and taking an unimaginable human toll. The eastern wing was also vulnerable to frequent flooding and devastating periodic cyclones. 200 years of discriminatory British rule had also left the region as one of the most neglected, impoverished, and industrially underdeveloped in the subcontinent.
Partly with justification, but also partly through sheer exaggeration, this whole mindset had been cultivated in East Pakistan about being exploited. Ignoring the fact that after 1947, it was the state of Pakistan that brought industrialization and the creation of tens of thousands of new jobs and training opportunities by the creation of the first ever jute manufacturing factories, which were otherwise all located in West Bengal before 1947.
You see, all the jute was grown in eastern Bengal. All the jute mills, barring those in Dandi, were in West Bengal, near Calcutta. Now, they had no capital to set up the mills. Even the government of Pakistan didn't have so much money. So people came from outside and started investing. If you all the jute mill owners who went from Bombay, went from Calcutta, went from the Punjab and invested there, exploiters, yes, you are entitled to do. In East Pakistan, there were jute factories, there were textile mills, there were garment factories, there were rolling mills, there were light engineering units, all kinds of factories. But in all these factories, the entire management was all from West Pakistan. East Pakistanis and Bengalis were only hired as class 4 servants.
Despite being approximately 52% of the country's population, Bengali East Pakistanis were grossly underrepresented in government and state services.
We must realize that till 1971, East Pakistan never had a Bengali chief secretary. All of them came from West Pakistan. They never had a finance secretary. They never had a planning secretary. So the bureaucracy was not equally divided, whereas Bengalis were 56% of the population. We did not give them their due. From the times of Liaquat Ali Khan, a 50% quota for civil service was reserved for East Pakistanis. The British had imposed physical restrictions ever since 1857 to prevent the Bengalis from joining the armed forces. Liaquat Ali Khan removed all those.
Their representation in the power structure of Pakistan increased manifold. But you couldn't bring about that 50-50 in every services at the federal level. But if you look at the numbers, they kept increasing. But then, when you start with a very narrow base, I mean, how many army officers you can train and recruit from an area which was deliberated by the British Raj?
The unfortunate fissures and grievances which were part of the initial process of building a new nation and state were made worse by political instability in the first 11 years. That phase saw 7 changes of prime ministers.
Before martial law, if you recall, 3 Bengali prime ministers were dismissed. Nazimuddin was dismissed, then Muhammad Ali Bogra was dismissed, then Hussain Shaheed Sohrawardi. Hussain Shaheed Sohrawardi was clearly the most outstanding Bengali leader. He had national status.
Despite the odds, a tremendous amount of progress was made economically, socially, and in many other ways in the short history of this young nation. The political instability leading up to the abolition of the 1956 Constitution and the imposition of martial law in October 1958, however, created a sense of bias against West Pakistan. The conditions created by the deepening mistrust between the East and West Pakistani political leaders